What's going on, my good people? Mike Hidalgo here. Thank you for joining me on another FCP Euro DIY. Today, we're working on a 1988 Porsche 911 Carrera. As you can see, we have quite a few parts in front of us here, and we're doing a big engine out service on the Carrera behind me. And one of those jobs is going to be engine mounts. We're going to be dropping this engine on its own DIY, so be sure to check that out. It's going to be linked in the video description below. And during that service, we are going to be replacing the engine mounts. We have a whole kit available on fcpo.com, which includes everything you need to do this job. Typically, these mounts, believe it or not, is one of the few things that holds these engines and transmission combos in place on your air-cooled 911. There's really not a lot to them. They're just rubber and metal pieced together, and like any other metal piece on any old car, over time, over years, the rubber breaks down, it fatigues, and can even cause the engine to sag down a little bit. So it's a pretty common replacement item. You can also upgrade them with different options. But for today, we're just gonna go with a standard replacement. But before we get started on that, let's take a look at some of the tools we're gonna need for this DIY. For this DIY, we have a 3/8 drive torque wrench, a 3/8 drive ratchet. Both of these are flex head units. We have a 19mm socket, a 13mm socket, as well as a 13mm wrench, an 8mm socket, a 6-inch extension. We have some torque seal, a piece of wood. This is what we're going to be using with our floor jack to support our engine, and an electric ratchet should we have some room to use it. Now with that, let's go ahead and get started. All right, we're going to be working on the driver's side engine mount today. However, the steps are going to be pretty much the same for the passenger side, with the exception if your car has an AC compressor or not. If it does, you're just going to want to get that out of the way. We've done this a couple times on a couple of the videos of the car, especially the engine out DIY. Just a 7 13mm bolts and nuts and a 13mm adjuster to get that baby out. But with that, let's focus on the driver's side. We're going to get our tube that goes from the exhaust to the blower motor out of the way, just so that we have room to get our 13mm wrench in once we lower the engine. So one clamp, one 8mm bolt. Let's get this baby out. We're going to release the cruise control cable, just pinching in on this baby to release that clip. And we have one 8mm bolt to remove. Now with that out of the way, we have a better access to our engine mount and hardware. I'm going to lift up the car just to show you kind of where we're going to be supporting it from underneath with our floor jack and piece of wood, just so you have a nice visible view of that before we get the car nice and low on the ground. So let me get it up in the air and show you what we're working with. Underneath the 911, we're going to use a block of wood, and preferably this section right here. We can also use this end right here between the exhaust, the engine brace, and the casing of technically the front of the engine. But regardless, as long as you have a nice block of wood supporting this, you're not damaging the fins or risk breaking the fins. That's why I kind of like using either this part or this. We'll be able to get that with our floor jack nice and just situated at first. Once we're ready to drop the hardware, then we can put a little bit of pressure on it, raise it up, a centimeter, and then we'll undo our hardware, and then we can lower the engine down about an inch or two so we can get our wrench and our fingers in there for the engine mount hardware. So just so you have a kind of an idea where you can work with. This area right here is great. This end right here is great. I try not to use the exhaust for anything. You don't want to dent it up or damage it. You don't want to risk breaking this fin on the engine either. So just be mindful, that's all. We're gonna break free our 19 first, now that the engine's nice and supported. Now it's important to note that the bolt has this large washer that encompasses the top of the mount. There's one just like it on the underside, so you want to make sure to retain that one and reinstall it before you raise the engine back up. So this one sits like this. It cups the bottom of our mount just like the top one does. We'll set these to the side. Now we're going to take our 13mm socket and break free the two 13mm. We're going to use our stubby 13mm wrench to kind of hold underneath. And we have a nut and washer on the bottom. We have one more on the other side. If you're worried about dropping anything in here, throw a coffee cup or something in the way to block that hole and you'll be fine. I'm going to pull our old mount out. You can see how much our old mount has worn by how much the rubber is drooping down versus our new one. Our new one is nice and flat still. This one has some protrusion to it. So that's just what happens over time as they're hanging upside down and you're putting a lot of weight through the bushing and the sleeve. We're gonna get rid of this thing, drop our new one in. The 13s get snugged down to 25 Newton meters. And then we'll feed in our new 19 millimeter bolt. We have our washer from before. That's gonna cup the bottom of the mount. Get that large 19 through. And then see if we can get this to line up. So right now we are 2 forward, our engine's 2 back. So I'm gonna go up a little bit. See if that helps line everything up. All right, we are still a little bit off. So I'm going to grab a pry bar. So hopefully you are watching before doing the DIY. Sometimes we need to add tools to the mix, which is okay. I'm just gonna very carefully pry from within here, between the back of the car and the engine cradle. I know I'm using the wrong side, but I'm trying to be gentle on the finishes here. There we go. We are in. I'm gonna make sure our engine's all the way up. And we're gently gonna start those 19s, just using the ratchet. We wanna make sure that they're not cross-threading or anything like that, so we wanna have a feel for them with the ratchet. Let me snug up the other one as well. We're gonna torque these 19s to 88 Newton meters. All right, we're gonna feed our tube in, starting by feeding it down at the bottom. Beautiful. Now we can do our hose clamp. And with that, my good people, that is gonna conclude the engine mount replacement on this 88 911. Pretty straightforward, honestly, kind of the same process on this. I'm assuming the 964s, the 930s, the 996s, pretty much the same, the 997, so nothing's really changed there. Again, if you like this video, please be sure to give it a thumbs up. If you have any questions or comments on what we did today, leave those in the comment section below. And if you like this DIY and you'd like to see more like them, please consider subscribing. We make new ones all the time. As always, thank you so much for watching. I'll catch you on the next one.